An association representing black lawyers in Canada says more black people will be sent to jail if the Liberal government's bail reform legislation passes as is. Well, for a closer look at this, we are joined by Kyle Elliott, the president of the Canadian Association of Black Lawyers, and Teresa Doncor, a criminal defense lawyer and member of the CABL. Thank you so much for joining me on CP24 Live at Noon. Talk to me about how this legislation would disproportionately impact members of the black community.
So first, I just want to make it clear that we want communities to be safer as well. But we know that black people are disproportionately overrepresented in the criminal justice system. We know specifically that black people are overrepresented in pretrial detention. A bill that proposes to make bail harder to access concerns us because naturally, if you're going to be keeping more people behind bars and more black people are already being put behind bars, you can see where that leads us.
Teresa, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Kyle has said on this. We already see in the criminal justice system some serious concerns with racial disparity. There's already a huge overrepresentation of Black and Indigenous folks in the criminal justice system and in our provincial jails and federal institutions. And so a bill that makes it harder for people to obtain jail or to obtain bail will make it harder for Black and Indigenous folks to obtain bail, which will just exacerbate the problem that we're already facing.
I'm curious if you can appreciate the growing calls right across the country for something to be done when it comes to bail reform, just basically based on the fact that there are many individuals who are repeat violent offenders who continue to be arrested and let out into the public and continue to commit these violent offenses. That's part of the reason why there's been these growing calls for this legislation. So I'm wondering if you can appreciate, why this legislation and this law, this bill was brought up in the first place.
So I want to actually defer to Teresa. She has the subject matter expertise when it comes to the criminal justice system. But I do just want to say one of the things that is quite concerning for us is actually just the lack of empirical evidence that this will actually be effective. And so I'll turn it over to Teresa, though, to maybe expand on that.
Yeah, and what I can add is that I certainly can empathize with the concerns about public safety and as I've said before, any time that any life is lost, that's a tragic circumstance that we need to address. Unfortunately, as Kyle mentioned, there's no data to show that this bill is going to have achieved the public safety goals that it's aiming to achieve. And really, I think it's important for people to know that we already have a stringent bail system and that no bail system is perfect. Even with these reforms, there's still going to be mistakes that are made. And the cases that we're seeing are outliers. The vast majority of people who are released on bail are not out there committing further crimes. The bail system is working. 77% or over 70% of people who are in our provincial jails right now are awaiting trial. So those are people who are detained because they did not receive bail. And that's not indicative of, a lenient bail system. It's not indicative of a catch and release policy. It's indicative of a system that shows that we take bail seriously. We go through the proper steps for the bail process. And unfortunately, with any system, there's always going to be human error.
It seems like there's some extreme challenges here. I've spoken to many experts on this issue, and there's that constant struggle between, not infringing on someone's rights, regardless if they've been arrested, and at the same time balancing the safety of our society. And, I remember speaking with one criminal defense lawyer who was deeply concerned about this legislation, about making sweeping reforms that could severely impact these individuals. But on the flip side, there are countless cases of violent individuals who are basically getting a slap on the wrist and then just being let back out into the public to commit further crimes. And, one case in point is the recent, murder of an OPP officer last year, which partially led to this bail reform. I was wondering what's your take on those comments?
Yes, absolutely. And I completely agree with those who have concerns, and I agree that there needs to be changes made. But I think what we're missing here is that in order to make our community safer, we really need to address the root causes of crime. And so, in order to make our community safer, we need to be looking at investing in social services such as mental health and addiction support, safe housing, guaranteed livable income. These are things that make our community safer and healthier. And so, we need to really focus on what are things that we can do to make our community safer and healthier, rather than imposing bills that are not backed by data and will have a disproportionate effect on already marginalized communities.
These are all very valid concerns, and I'm glad we're discussing this because this is going to have a major impact on our judicial system. Kyle Elliott and Teresa Donker, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.